Hi everyone, welcome back. Today is a special occasion because I'm talking to, perhaps I can say, an old friend of mine, because we met about 12 years ago. We haven't met ever since. It was a lovely youth exchange in Italy where we met. And I really want you to get to know people, blind people who are successful in life, who do lots of things, who are active. So this is why I decided to talk to Alexandra Surla today. So welcome, Alexandra.
Yeah,
Thanks
thanks
for
for having
joining
me.
me. Thanks for accepting to be my guest today. As I have said, we actually don't know too much about each other. There are lots of pros and cons of social media, but one pro is definitely the fact that you can get news of people you haven't seen for ages. So this is why I know that your life has changed a lot during those last couple of years. So it would be great to speak about that. You come from Slovenia, but now you live in the UK. And I thought it's really interesting to hear your experience moving from a country to another country and all your experience of these two different places. Yeah, my first question would be, I don't know anything about that. So would be your studies. Did you go to a segregated school in Slovenia?
So I went to a special school for the blind when I was 5 years and a half. It was a basically like a boarding school that I went to, and I was going to that school for 10 years. So when I was 15, I went to high school, which was a normal high school. It was we call it Gimnasia Bežigrad, and it's one of the better schools out there in my country. So I did that school for 4 years, and then after, when I was 19, I enrolled into university, and I finished it's called Interlinguistic Communication Studies, which was a 3-year, like a bachelor degree studies. Then when I finished
can we just stop for a sec still at primary school? May I ask you how many special schools for the blind there are in Slovenia?
There's only one. So
there's only one. And it's still working, isn't it?
So at the time when I went to that school, it was purely school for, we call it a primary school. So that's, it used to be 8 years, and then I had 1 year of preschool and 1 year of kindergarten. Literally a couple of years after that, the school system changed. So we no longer have 8 years, but 9. And the first year that we used to call a preschool changed into a first class. So they added 1 year. Now the school still exists, but they merged together with another school, which used to be like a high school, like a professional type of school, that used to be in a town called Škofja Loka. And that used to be a school where teenagers could study either to study economics or to be telephone operators. Now, because obviously the telephone operator job was no longer in demand in the early 2000s, and there were less and less kids that decided to go to that type of school, because more and more kids started to go to just the normal high schools all around the country. The high school merged with the primary school in Ljubljana. So now it still exists, but it exists more like a center for the blind, meaning that they offer some specific studies, but they mainly concentrate on offering different courses also for kids that are in the education in their own villages or towns, but just need some extra skills such as braille or orientation, mobility, things like that. So they've outsourced like that, but yeah, it still exists in short. Yeah.
I see. I also went to a special school. We have two schools in Budapest, one for blind students and the other one for low vision students. I went to the latter one, and people often ask me, so let me ask you, what my impressions were and are of attending a special school. Or to put it in another way, was it an advantage or a disadvantage, or what might be better, inclusion or a segregated school? What do you think about that?
I mean, it's difficult.
I know it's not an easy question. There are lots of pros and cons. So,
I mean, it's easy for me now to say that it gave me a lot, and it did. But as a child, I found it very traumatic, because obviously having to leave your parents when you're 5 years old, it's a very tough on a child. I mean, let's just take a child that isn't blind. It's very unlikely that a parent would decide to do that.
Yeah.
Now, I know that in England, boarding schools are still quite a thing.
Come on, I would be shocked, to send my 7-year-old to a boarding school.
But that's the thing. So in England, they have boarding schools, and boarding schools are often more perceived like a status symbol. So parents pay thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds per year to send their kids to boarding school. But even those kids are not that young. They are 10, 11 years old. They are not 5 years old.
Yeah.
So it's different. So I found it, especially the first 4 or 5 years, it was very difficult for me as a child to, even in my case, we would go home on Saturdays and Sundays. I know that before that, kids would stay in school for months.
Yeah.
So it gave me a lot, but it also took something away from me as a child that I'll never be able to get back, and that probably affects my, the way I interact with people nowadays as well. There's always this kind of a anxiety going on. It's at the background. It's nothing that would bother me on a day-to-day basis, but something changes in you when you have to go leave your family, leave your parents when you're so little. And yes, my life is better now. Probably my parents wouldn't be able to give me what I was given in school, education wise and orientation wise and skills wise. But no, I don't think it's right to send a child away when they are 5 years old. No.
And for secondary school, did you return to your hometown, or you stayed in Ljubljana?
So during high school times, I used to live at home for the 2 years. I would go, my parents or my sister would take me to school and back, but then I decided to go back to Ljubljana and to live. Basically, at that time, my primary school, they started to offer places for kids that were studying in high school around the city. So I had a boarding there, so I would eat in where it used to be my primary school, and then I would go to high school from there every day, which was a great kind of combination, because I knew my surroundings already there, because obviously I lived there for 10 years before, and at the same time I was out and about, so that was good.
Yeah. Do you have any particular memories of high school? Did you like those years? I hated to be a secondary school student.
You know,
I
I
had a
didn't
terrible
like,
class. I
yeah,
didn't like it. What
I didn't
about
like
you?
it very much. I
Mm.
didn't like it very much. I much preferred primary school.
Uh-huh.
The reason is, so I'm not sure you know, but I used to sing in a singing group.
Wow, I didn't
Um,
know that.
and when I was in primary school, we would basically start doing that, and we would have performances all around the country.
Mm.
So in the last few years of my primary school, sometimes I would even have 3 performances per day.
Wow.
And in the morning I would have my studies, and then in the afternoon we were out and about. We had one teacher that would drive us around, and we'd go all around Slovenia, and it was amazing.
Hmm.
That was when I was
Special
like 13,
community also,
14.
I
It was
suppose.
brilliant. It was amazing.
Hmm.
It was great. And then I went to this school, which is, as I mentioned before, one of the better schools.
Mhm.
And I was suddenly, from being the princess among, my friends, and like
Hmm.
always out and
A
about,
singer.
I became one of the feeble ones, one of the, not the worst kids, but
Mhm,
there
mhm.
were those genius kids and really clever kids and rich kids and privileged kids. And I was just like, I was quite average, and I
Mm,
wasn't used to being average.
mm.
And that was very difficult for me. Like, I mean, I don't understand when people say sweet 16. I don't get that.
I
I
see.
don't I don't do sweet 16. I don't understand what's sweet about being 16.
Yeah. And at that time,
Um,
did you have a laptop? Did you use a computer? Or how did you
I
study at
did.
school?
I mean, it was quite advanced thinking about it, because I had this
Great.
massive laptop and a braille display. Oh my God,
Wow.
just,
That's
I
great.
know, I was
I'm I'm
lucky.
I'm some years older than you, but imagine that I only had a laptop during the last year of secondary school. And before that, I used to write with a slate and stylus.
I mean, oh wow, my computer was, it was a Dell computer. It was
Yeah.
old and bulky, and the only reason why I got it then and the braille display is because, again, that's the advantage of a small country and of, let's say,
Hmm.
good communities, because we had Lions Club that was, they were fundraising for me. So
Hmm.
they fundraised money for me to be able to buy me a computer and braille display. I mean, we'd never
Great.
be able to afford it at that
Yeah,
time. No
sure.
way.
Sure.
So, and I used to, so the only thing I did with my typewriter was maths. I didn't do maths on a computer. I still don't know how you can do maths on a computer.
Yeah, I think it's fairly difficult. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I had my typewriter at school where I would do maths
Mm.
with, but everything else, I mean, oh my God, it's hilarious, because the first year or two of my secondary school, as you call it, like gymnasium,
Mhm.
there I would use floppy disks.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
My
I mean,
son has no
oh dear.
idea what a floppy disk is,
No, and
or a
I
cassette
remember,
player.
yeah, I found some floppy disks the last time when I went to see my family. I found a big, massive bag, right? Even the bag itself was like huge. I've no idea how I could even carry it around at that time, because it
Yeah.
was a heavy, bulky, horrible bag, padded and
Yeah.
just really cumbersome. And it had floppy disks in. And I asked my nephew, I said, "Do you know what this is?" He's probably, how old is he? 13, 14. It was like, I have no idea. What is it?
Mm,
It's a floppy
that's
disk.
great.
Um, so that was
Yeah,
funny.
ancient technology. So
Then
let's
I
jump
know that
over.
when I was
Mhm,
in my last year of secondary
mhm.
school, I started using a USB stick,
Oh yeah,
and it was so advanced because it
yeah.
had
High tech, high
128.
tech.
It was, well, it had 128 megabytes, which is nothing. But to me at that time, it was a lot.
Yeah, really
So,
useful. You have already mentioned that you studied or worked with foreign languages at the university. So
that's right. So I, as a second language at high school, I chose French because I didn't want to choose. The only reason why is because I didn't want to study German. Which I regret it. I don't. I regret is a big word, but I do wish I spoke German.
You know, it's so funny that you are saying that. I studied German at primary school. I had a fairly good level of German, and I went to a secondary school where I had the chance to study Spanish. I was crazy about Spanish, which I'm still crazy about, but I do regret that I didn't go on with German. It would be useful, you know, in this area of Europe, definitely
Certainly.
it would be useful.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why I chose French. That was the only other option. No, did we have Italian as an option? I think we did, but yeah, anyway, I chose French. And then I continued French at university. That was a combination of English and French. So I got that degree, and then I went on to studying interpretation for a year because my I mean, I wanted to be a translator, but little did I know that translators use a lot of very specific programs that were not accessible with JAWS. And it was very difficult to make them accessible because
I would say in many cases impossible. I also tried some of those.
Trados was one of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
And the reason why it was so hard is because even if there were scripts for it, those programs were updating on a yearly basis, which means that if you made scripts for one, next year those scripts would be irrelevant.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I did not know that. I mean, when you study interpretation or translation, you think, oh, I mean, everyone was telling us, especially to me, oh, you're so talented, you'll work for EU and it will be great and you'll earn lots of money and it will be amazing. And no one even thought of any kind of issues like that.
Yeah, there are many barriers indeed in translation and interpretation.
There, things that you don't even think of.
Yeah,
and then there was
true.
another option, translating for, subtitling films, which is a niche that quite a few translators go into. Now, again, that was difficult because obviously sometimes you need to see to be able to translate correctly, or there's things that you need to translate and you need to see, like on screen, what it says. So I encountered some issues there. So I thought, you know what, I'm not doing this. And then I went on to interpretation, but I just wasn't feeling it. I wanted to do it, but I just kind of struggled with the whole community because it was quite posh and quite a specific, quite competitive as well.
Yeah, I suppose it's similar. The Slovenian situation must be similar to our situation in Hungary, that there are quite many interpreters. So it's, as you are saying, super competitive, and it's really, really tough to find your place.
It is, yeah. Once you get your place, you're good.
Yeah,
but it's really tough. And
again, there are limitations. I mean, a big boss perhaps doesn't want to, guide his interpreter to a meeting. So, I mean, conference interpreting is fine, really accessible. but there are many different tasks that an
There are,
interpreter
yeah,
gets, and
exactly. Yeah.
again, you may meet lots of barriers.
Yeah, and I mean, now I don't want to sound super negative. If anyone who's listening now is studying
Well, you are
translation,
realistic. I mean,
you know, it's my experience. Again, it depends if you've got how many friends you've got or people who help you. You might not even be encountering those problems. You know, I
yeah,
did
yeah,
because
sure.
I was on my own for most of the things at that
Mm.
time. And to be very honest with you, being in education for so many years, you kind of become less, you know, you just don't have the energy anymore.
Sure.
And I just wasn't motivated enough. And I mean, I did study on the side, I studied Russian as well,
That's
um,
great. Mhm.
and comparative literature and literary theory. I didn't finish any of those because I
Mm.
happened to get a job in 2000 and well, I had jobs before, but my kind of greatest job came in 2013 when I started working for National Union of the Blind.
Mhm.
I stayed there for 2.5 years. I worked it was a part-time job, but it was a good
Mm.
job. I worked there. I worked as a editor of newspapers.
Mhm.
It was good. I mean, I still miss it really because it was with friends that I knew from before, most of them. It was in capital, you know, in Ljubljana. We had lots of
Uh-huh.
fun. It was good. I mean, it was a nice job. I liked it, and I
Yeah, I
liked
can
that time of
imagine.
my life. It was good.
But
We
then, although you liked that time of your life, you decided to move to the UK. How did that
I
happen?
I did. So that was after. So my contract ended after 2.5 years.
Mm.
So I was unemployed after that, and it was really hard because I wasn't a student anymore.
Mm.
I wasn't, so I couldn't get any privilege, such as things that you never think about before, really, because
Mm.
I don't know, like health insurance or
Yeah,
things like
yeah.
that, you know, things that you just take for granted when you're in school. You don't even
Mm.
think that that's a thing.
Yeah.
But then when you kind of lose that and when you have to start paying for it yourself, or when you realize, oh, I don't have money anymore to go. Well, I wasn't really doing clubbing, but just to go out for a coffee
Sure,
or
sure.
to
Natural
eat, just
things that
things.
anyone needs in life, you
Yeah. And
know.
then you think, oh my God, what do I do now? You know, I finished a study that gave me lots of knowledge, but equally, you know, it's not
Come
very
on, so
practical.
you made a really brave decision on how to continue.
Well, as I said, I was unemployed for a while and I met this guy in Britain and we started going back and forth and
Mm.
we kind of obviously we fell in love. We wanted things to move further, but he wasn't ready to come here. I mean, it was all quite it wasn't quick, but equally it was quite a big thing, especially he wasn't used to traveling so much. I used to do a lot of traveling because I used to
Mm.
work on different projects and different just different things. So I
Yeah,
thought to
that's how we
myself,
met,
yeah,
actually.
exactly. I thought to myself, you know what, I haven't got a job at the minute. um let's see what happens. I'll go up to England. And I was quite naive at that time. I thought, oh, you know, I will find a job and then we'll be
Mm.
fine. So I came here and
You don't live in the
it
capital city, do you?
I don't. I live
Uh-huh.
in West Midlands. It's quite close to Welsh border. It's a nice green kind of part of the UK.
Mm.
I live in a bigger village,
Mhm.
and yeah, I mean there's a park outside our house. There's a garden, and then a big park with lots of trees and birds, and it's lovely. It's a lovely place to live. It's a
Come
nice
on,
place to
moving
live.
from one country to another is not an easy thing for sighted people either. So how did you manage to learn the roots, to learn
Do you know, I don't know.
orientation? Was it all your
I don't know.
partner to teach that to you, or did you
I
get
just
any
did it.
help?
I
Oh,
I did most of things by myself.
uh-huh.
I mean, he helped me, but literally I learned. I mean, Slovenia even took my guide dog off me after a few months because in Slovenia dogs are financed via the national healthcare system, which obviously I was not eligible for anymore because I lived somewhere else. And they said that I have to give the dog back, which was a sad thing
The
for me.
dog, and for how long were you together?
With my dog
Yeah.
for 2 years and 2 months.
Wow, but that
Yeah,
sounds so nonsense. I mean, you are
it
used to a
was.
dog. The dog is
Mm.
used to you. You cooperate perfectly. Wow, that's incredible.
It was sad
My
because I mean
goodness.
I even spoke to some members of parliament in Slovenia and it was in the news and it was a massive big deal. So at the end,
Wow.
they offered me to buy my dog off them, which I could
Wow.
have done. Well, I couldn't really at the time because I couldn't afford it. But
Hmm.
the main reason why I didn't buy dog off them is because if he wanted to work as a qualified guide dog here, he would need to go um, through some trainings in the UK to get the badge
Wow.
of a guide dog.
I've never thought that it's so complicated
Yeah, no,
to
neither did
move
I.
your guide dog from one country to another.
So it really depends. I mean, because now, if I went to Slovenia now, I could take my Sally with me
Wow.
because you need to have a dog for a year before you can move, which now, I've been here I've had Sal for nearly 2 years, so I could take her. But in
Hmm.
Slovenia, dogs are sourced and financed via the healthcare system, which isn't the case here. Here, it's dogs are a charity organization,
Hmm.
so there's no government involved.
I
So
see.
so anyway, Pingo, my dog, would have to go through a training,
Hmm.
which very likely he would fail because training was of course in English, and because he's a Slovenian dog, he
Hmm.
would have to learn completely new words,
Hmm.
which I thought was so unlikely. And even if I paid for him to to be the to be my dog,
Yeah.
very likely I would end up with a pet
Sure.
that
So,
can
so do
that
you know if finally he was given to someone
he
else
was.
or?
Yeah, I know where he is now.
Uh-huh.
He's all
Wow,
right.
that's
So
really tough. That's really tough.
it was, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, all in all, I don't want to be too negative. So I did get a job in the end here. It
Yeah.
was,
You did get a dog too, which is
I did get
nice.
a dog. That's right. So things did kind of get sorted. So I have a guide dog now that is a British dog, and
Yeah.
I have a job that is, I'm quite lucky. I work for the bank. So at the moment, I work in an entry role, which means that I work on the phones with customers, just doing personal banking
Mhm.
for now. But it's a role that, I mean, we have. So my employer, we have all in all together about 29 million customers. So
Mm.
there's about 100 new jobs within the company coming up every month.
Mhm.
So it's a good place to kind of, progress in
Yeah.
a year or
Can
two.
you mention anything that really surprised you in the UK? I mean, really anything, like anything in the British manners or simply a funny tradition that you had never heard of before, or I don't know,
I mean,
really.
man, They are endearing, Britta. I mean, they are very kind of kind people, very polite. You know, we always hear that you have to say please after every sentence, and you do. You do. Literally, if
Yeah.
you just have to say please all the time and
Yeah.
thank you all the time and please some more. Like just say it extra just in case.
Yeah.
They are very polite, kind. I mean, they're quite. This the interesting thing, right? Is that we always think that other people have much better lives, and that, like in Slovenia, we have this issue where we think that if you, I don't know, that if you don't go to the seaside and skiing in one same year, that you are very deprivileged, and that we always feel sorry for ourselves and we feel like we're missing out on lots of things.
Yeah, the same in
And
Hungary, thinking that the neighbor's grass is greener.
exactly. But then I came here, and honestly, yes, people enjoy themselves. Yes, people can afford to go and eat out without having to eat, cheese and bread for the rest of the month.
Yeah.
But honestly, some lives, some people have quite boring lives.
Yeah.
So it's honestly not a thing. If you don't manage to go skiing and to the seaside in 1 year, that's just fine. Like, you're normal, it's
Obviously,
fine.
we were chatting before this interview, and one thing we particularly spoke about was isolation, and you said that was really interesting. On the other hand, not at all surprising, was that also in Britain, like elsewhere, many blind people are really isolated.
Very much so.
Mhm.
Very much so. And especially because Great Britain is obviously much bigger than Slovenia or Hungary, obviously.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I know in Slovenia, we've got lots of small kind of regional organizations that help people to be more integrated. And some of them do this better than others. Some of them don't do it at all, but most of them do something about it. Here, lots of things are made on a national level. I mean, we have an amazing library here, and just things that can help blind people. But there's less action when it comes to regional and when it comes to inclusion, one-to-one, so lots of blind people really suffer. I mean, I am one of the lucky few with a job as well. So I should maybe give myself a bit more credit, because I say, oh, I've got this job, and yeah, it's okay. But honestly, not many blind people have jobs here. It's really hard to get a job, and especially because employers look for experiences, which of course you cannot have if you don't have a job. It's really hard. I mean,
yeah, absolutely, which is
voluntary work is much harder to get, because even to get the voluntary work, you need to register yourself. You need to go through some health and safety. You can't just come into an organization and say, hey, give me something to do. That's not how it works here. It's all regulated, and sometimes regulation is good, because obviously, because of all of the paperwork and everything, but equally sometimes it can be a barrier as well, because not everyone can be a volunteer, because
I
they've
see.
got so many volunteers that they
You've
can.
mentioned the library as something which is great in Britain and not that great perhaps in Slovenia. Can you mention any other special services, support services that you have in the UK and you don't have in
So,
Slovenia?
um,
Or vice versa. I mean, things that you have in
let me
Slovenia.
think.
Let me tell you an example. When I went to Britain a couple of years ago, I was really I'm surprised to see that I could get assistance at any train station.
That was what I wanted to say, actually. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I wanted to say. That definitely we don't have that in Slovenia. So here, every line, every company, because we have several train companies here, not like in Slovenia where we have one and only.
Yeah, yeah.
Every train company has their own dedicated phone number, or you can also book online if it's easier, where you book assistance. So basically, you say, I'm taking this train with this company at this time, and then I'm changing in this town and going to a third town or whatever.
Yeah.
You let them
Makes
know in
traveling
advance.
so much easier.
It does. It does. You pitch up, you go to usually there's like a contact office, or depends. I'm in London Euston, which is one of the great bigger stations. They've got it's called a mobility office. So you go there, you say, I'm booked for this train. They ask you for your surname, you give them your surname, and you're good to go.
Yeah, and as
Then
far
on
as
the
I know,
tube,
you can have assistance even at the smallest villages, not only in big cities.
as
Is
long
that
as they are
right?
manned, yeah.
Yeah.
So as long as there's someone at that station, like our station is
Yeah.
unmanned,
Uh-huh.
so there's no one there, but I know the station so well that I don't need assistance. And they would, if the station is unmanned, they would let the train guard know that you are there, so they would kind of look out for you when the train stops.
I see.
Yeah.
That's great.
But even if you want to use the tube in London, you don't need to book in advance. So you just go there and someone takes you downstairs.
Wow, in the
to
London tube, that's also
Yeah.
really helpful.
I mean, London is admittedly more accessible than, like, for a blind person, it's better to live in London, because obviously with the tube, you've got all the assistance you need, and you can go anywhere within the town, and it's probably easier to find a job as well, to be honest, because there's
Well, as
many
you
more
said,
jobs
it's so much
available.
more expensive than living in the countryside. It's
That's right.
obviously
So
a different barrier.
it depends, but I'm sure it's the same in all cities and all countries. So as long as you're okay with living in a small place, that's fine. So it just really depends what you're looking for and what your priorities are. But with the money that we are here paying for the whole house, probably we wouldn't be able to get a room in London for the same money. Yeah, there are big differences, massive differences.
One more question, or perhaps two more questions, but one more about assistance. I was really surprised to hear that in Slovenia, also blind people are now entitled to have, or they can get assistance, a personal assistant. Is that right?
That's right. So it's a new law that's been going on for a couple of years now, where you can basically ask for a personal assistant. Now, you do need to go through some assessment processes, but then I know some people can get up to 40 hours per week of assistance, which actually is one of the things that is very luring to me. And if I ever go back, for whatever reason, because that might happen, I might decide that, because I miss Slovenia so much, and I miss my family, and I miss mountains and nightlife even.
Come on, a Mediterranean girl may say, okay, now I need to get back home. Yeah, but it's so special. I know, for example, a single blind mom with twin daughters, and now she's suffering to find help to take the daughters to kindergarten. I mean, there are so many situations in which even blind people could use personal assistance, or would need personal assistance.
Is that in
Not to
Hungary?
speak about wheelchair users. Yeah, she's a Hungarian mom. But we
bless
cannot
her.
have any personal
Yeah.
assistance.
I mean, we
And the
didn't have
tougher
like
thing
when,
is that
yeah,
wheelchair users can't either. So for them,
that's
it's
really
even harder.
bad. Yeah, yeah. This legislation came into force literally a couple of years ago, and yeah, it's just I mean, it's one of the things where really, like, when I was leaving Slovenia, that wasn't on the cards. I mean,
Yeah.
it's taken tens of years for this
Yeah,
legislation to
sure.
finally happen. There was lots of politics going on and going back and forth, and it was an achievement in itself for this to come through. But now that it has, I mean, it's from a disabled person's view, it's great. If you manage to get, I mean, even if I had 10 hours a week, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I used to have assistance before through it's a special organization called Youth Handicapped Deprivileged. And it's a quite a it's an all disability organization that offers this. They were the ones that started lobbying for this
I see.
legislation to happen. They were the first ones that started lobbying for it, and they are a group of disabled, mainly wheelchair users, but basically they are embracing the social model of disability more than the medical one, if you know anything about that. So they believe that society should adapt itself to disabled people, and then by basically giving someone personal assistance, you kind of help to break the barrier between the society and the disabled individual. So I used to get assistance through them. At some point, even up to 20 hours, I think. And it was great. I mean, sometimes there were some barriers that we had to come over with an assistant, of course, especially when you've got so much help. That's quite a lot, so you spend a lot of time with the person. But honestly, yeah, I mean, if you are independent in yourself and then you just need some extra help,
that comes really handy.
It does.
Just one last thing, because I don't want to finish our chat without mentioning that you are a super active person. I heard you sing and saw you dance at the youth exchange where we met.
Did I? I don't remember.
Yeah, you did, and I know that you are really adventurous. Going on a zip line and such things. So what does Alexandra Surla do in her free time?
Sleep.
Okay, let's suppose there's no COVID around.
So... Yeah, I literally 2 weeks before lockdown started, I went to Dubai. I went with an organization called Travelize, which is an organization that, well, at the minute they are kind of hibernating, as do all travel agencies. But what they do, they offer blind people holiday, and
really
they give you
trips, actually.
Sorry?
Really great trips they offer you all around the world.
Very decadent places. But they give you, basically, you have a sighted guide all the way. So you can literally go completely by yourself. All you need to do is to be at the airport at a certain time. So that's up to you. But then once you get to the airport, you every day you have a different guide in the group. So we kind of mix up so that you don't end up with the same person all the time.
Nice that you can make new friends too.
Well, everyone is different, obviously, some guides are less active, others are more, some are boring, some are less boring, some are, just like we are different, they are different. So they always make sure that you get one different day so that you kind of have different experiences. So you, unfortunately, that means that you have to pay a higher price, which is the only kind of iffy thing, because basically what you pay for. So what they do, they offer lower price to the sighted people, who then in return become our sighted guides. So those sighted guides are just normal people who want to go on a holiday. They are not carers, or they are not any kind of professionals, but they are just normal people who want to go on a holiday and help a bit, pay a lower price, but then I am the one that pays a high price so that those people can have a lower price. So that's a bit not nice, but you just have to kind of take that into consideration. And it was the first time for me that I went, and I would totally go again. I mean, it was brilliant. I loved it.
I can imagine. Lots of blind people travel alone, but I always think, to manage your days at an unknown place is kind of frustrating. We can say, yeah, it is adventurous. Yeah, we can say you're really cool if you're able to do that. Honestly, when I am on holiday, I just don't want to manage my days.
You just
alone.
want to
I'm doing
relax.
that, every day at home and work and so on.
Exactly.
So
you just want to relax, and you want to
Exactly.
chill out. You don't want to worry about anything. And this is what you get here with Travel Eyes. I mean, I know that one of the good ways of traveling for blind people is cruises. Cruises can be quite accessible to the blind, especially, and I just want to mention that because we did not mention that at any point, and that you might not be known to Hungarian. I'm not sure what kind of population, what kind of audience you have. I use a service called IRA. Have you ever heard of IRA?
I have heard of it, but I don't know much about it. So
it's an American company that I pay a certain price per month. It's a monthly subscription. And what it is, they have their own app. You connect via you initiate a video call, and then an agent that is specially trained helps you do your daily tasks or whatever you need. So, for example, they can also connect with you. They can see you on Google Maps. So I remember when I got lost in London once, I called an agent and I said, look, I don't know where I am. This is where I need to go to. And they guided me. They could see me walking. So they told me, oh, careful, there's something in front of you. Turn left, turn right, stop there. So they guided me to, I think it was the Piccadilly station that I needed to go to. Or they can also read my post, which, you can have an app read post to you if you want, but sometimes you just need, it's a small post, or it's a small print, or you just want someone to read it thoroughly to you without having to worry about.
Yeah, we have a similar service, actually, a Hungarian one, arranged by the Hungarian Federation for the Blind. Wow. They do the same, except that they cannot help you when you are out. I mean, if you ask the person to check, for example, the number of a bus, which you are showing with your camera, they would tell you. But for example, they wouldn't help you navigate in the street, because they say they just can't see your surroundings, and that might be dangerous.
No,
but it's a
so
similar
IRA
service.
does. IRA does. They can even call an Uber for you. So we do have a system here called Uber. It's a taxi system that you can call, and then IRA calls it, can order it for you. You can connect the apps together, and then they can also tell you where the car is, so they can navigate you to a car.
Oh, that's great.
Another thing they can do, lots of airports now in the UK as well are free, like a free access location. So they can guide you. For example, if I want to go to a duty free, I don't have to ask people around me, or assistants, which is they're always very grumpy if you kind of need something more than just the essential. I mean, you know, Ira can do that for you. They can literally guide you into the shop, and they can browse with
I'm
you.
laughing because immediately a guy came to my mind, an assistant who helped me at Edinburgh Airport, and I said, look, I definitely need to buy a bottle of whiskey for my dad. And he said, yeah, come on, I'm the best person to buy whiskey with. So he came to the
You were
duty
lucky then.
free,
I
searched for
mean,
bottles.
yeah.
But I absolutely know that it's not always like that.
I had some very good and some bad experiences.
Yeah,
Let's put it like that. It really depends on who you get, and that shouldn't be the case. You know, it shouldn't be a lottery on, does this person have 5 minutes? Because for them it's just another kind of thing. Whereas for you, it's important for you to be able to buy that whiskey, you know, because obviously you don't know when you'll be there again, and you just, you know, it's your right to buy it.
Absolutely,
you know, just like anyone else's. So with Ira, what's good about is that, yes, you're paying for it, but because these people are specially trained, you know, there's no kind of power issues about it. You know, you pay for what you pay for what you need. You're charged per minute, so you pay for a bundle of minutes, and that's that. You know, there's no kind of, if you need your task to take half an hour, that's fine, because those agents are there for you. You know, they can even connect via team viewer on your computer. So for example, what we did before this call, where you called your sister to help you, you could do that with an Ira agent. You could have them connect on your computer, and they would tell you what they see on the screen. Nice. And they would help you get it sorted. So
I'll remember it for next time.
No, all I'm saying is that it's a great help, and that's really helping blind people here to be more independent. You know, it's a great service that they offer, that is now legally in the UK as well, so we can use it in the UK as well.
Well, thanks indeed. I'm pretty sure we could continue chatting for hours.
Quite.
I don't want to take your time, so really thank you once again. And it was so lovely talking to you.
Thanks for having me, and I hope we weren't too boring.
And enjoy your stay wherever you are staying in the following years. If it's
thank you.
Or come back to Slovenia. Take care. Thanks
you
indeed.
too.
Bye.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.